This podcast may contain adult language and themes. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Tokyo Tea Party podcast. In this podcast, we have real talk about life in Japan from people who actually live here. So my name is Sam. I am 38 years old. I've been living in Japan for about 13 years. I've been teaching English the whole time, and I'm currently trying to transition into freelance graphic design. And I currently live in Tokyo. I am originally from New Jersey in the United States. It's everybody's favorite state to make jokes about, but I call it home. Yeah. And, I just started this podcast because I have a lot of fun with people in spaces on Twitter. And I thought, maybe we could make something even more interesting in the podcast format. So that's my introduction. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Whenever this does go up, I'll be looking forward to your likes and your shares and your comments. All right. So that's it for me for now. So, who wants to go first? Who wants to introduce themselves?
Okay, sure. Hi, my name is Maha. I was born and raised in Christchurch, New Zealand. I have a Chinese mother and an Egyptian father, so I grew up in a very multicultural environment. I can only speak English, and then I now can speak fluent Japanese. I studied it since I was 12 years old. I'm now 26. I moved to Japan in August 2018 and have been here ever since. I also teach English, and that's the basics. Nice to meet you.
All right, nice to meet you too. Thanks for joining, Maha.
Okay, I'll go next. Okay, well, I'm Brittni. I've been here about 8 years. I'm originally from Texas in the U.S. I'm in my mid-30s. Woohoo! Yay, back pain. And I also teach English, like most of us.
All right, so today's topic, anyway, how has Japan changed you? Because it's quite different from American culture. I imagine it might be different from the culture in New Zealand as well. Maybe not time zone wise, but so yeah. So yeah, I have a few questions, and I would like you to answer as much as you're comfortable with.
Sounds good.
All right. So, what are some things that you do in Japan that you would never have done back home?
Oh,
So, for example, there's probably a lot, but a nice simple example I like to give is like in the US, you could not pay me to eat tofu. Like I would rather die than eat tofu. But one of the schools I was working at, like when I first got here, I got here on the JET program, and like when I first got over here, I have like a fish allergy, which Japanese people don't really believe exists.
oh,
And
Of all the
Mm.
things I have an allergy for.
I know.
That's a
Very
tough one.
unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, but like my fish allergy meant that like every day I was rejecting some of the food for the school lunch. So
Right.
every day there was fish and tofu, and I was like, okay, I literally
Yep.
can't eat the fish. Tofu
Mm-mm.
is disgusting, but I'll try it. And then after a few weeks, a few months of just shoveling tofu into my mouth, it actually started to taste good, and like now I actually kind of like tofu. I like it a lot. So that's a little example there. So how about Brittni? You want to go first?
Sure. I think for me, one of the things is like, because I'm from Texas, from the South, and sweet tea. Sweet tea is a big thing there, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, like not drinking sweet tea was like kind of unheard of. But you get used to it. It's probably better for you anyways. Also, I guess another one is just like I think barbecue for me as well.
Hmm.
It's because barbecue's different here, right? How you do it.
There's no burgers on the grill outside. There's no, char grilled. There's no grilled hot dogs and stuff. I miss that a
You
lot.
can't get lamb as well.
Right. So yeah, like the tea thing, like I like literally like my first day in Japan. I came over during college. I was a study abroad student. I came over for a few months, and like right out of Narita Airport, like I went to a convenience, and I think I could read the character for T. I think I could read the kanji character for T, and I was like, okay, this is T. It's probably not gonna be like Arizona tea or whatever, but like
Oh,
it's tea.
Arizona.
I'll drink it. The shock
Yep.
that was on my face because uh it was black tea and like
Mm.
very different, not sweet at all. It's just tea and like I didn't finish drinking that tea. I was like famished, but I couldn't finish drinking it. But yeah. Maha, what about you?
So for me, there's two, but one of the big ones is I would not dress the way I do here in New
Mhm.
Zealand, because even though New Zealand is a safe country, Japan is safer. And especially as a woman, I would not go out alone at night wearing a skirt with tights. I just would
Mhm.
not feel safe doing that in New Zealand. Whereas here in Japan, winter, summer, whatever, I feel totally comfortable and okay wearing a short skirt or short shorts any time of the year, and not have to, look behind my back or something like that. I've been very fortunate. I haven't had a dodgy experience, anything. I know many women have, but yeah, I feel like I can kind of dress more like the way I want to here, and I can be out at night by myself and not have to feel anxious or worry. That's something I would never do in New Zealand. I never did in New Zealand. Like as soon as the sun goes down, New Zealand, I'm home. So, but here I
Mhm.
feel okay going out and about and going to events and coming home late. I live by myself. I have no problems, you know, coming home late by myself. So I feel that's a big one for me.
For me, it's a little opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like when I live back at home, I'm okay with showing like a little shoulder, a little cleavage, a little this. But here, I'm like I'm I'm covered up. Like I don't want to show anything.
Oh, I specifically said legs. So like top, I don't, even in New Zealand, I didn't really show like cleavage or shoulders, but I guess it's like the different fashion sense, because like my mom's Asian, my mom's Chinese, and I look more Asian, and I kind of grew up with more of my Asian side. So like here, I blend in more, so I don't so
Right.
much stand out. Whereas if I were to dress how I dress now in New Zealand, it would be like, oh, who are you cosplaying? Or like, oh, you like, oh, you, why are you dressed like that, kind of thing. So, um, yeah. So top torso area, that's a different story, I think. Because yeah, in New Zealand, like you're wearing cleavage or just a bikini top, no one would give a second
Bat an
look.
eye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a similar thing. But
No, I was gonna say I also understand the like not like feeling like not confident but safe because like
mm,
back at home too, I would also you just casually look over your shoulder, look at your surroundings, and
hmm,
here I don't have that paranoia the way I
yeah,
would back at home. Even walking to like parking lots, because I remember in my college time, I always had my keys in between my hands, just walking to
yes.
my
Oh my
car.
God. Yep. Yep. Sticking out.
Yeah, actually, I had a
Yep.
keychain. It looked like a cat, but it wasn't a cat. It was like to poke your eyes out in case you got too close to me.
Yep, I did
But
the same
here,
thing.
Do you guys know if Japanese women do the key thing?
probably not.
I know, because I think in Japan they don't encourage the women to defend themselves. They encourage them
Right.
to attract attention, to make the whoever run away and stop, rather than
Mhm.
actually.
Right.
I don't know. I haven't had an experience like that, but like from what I've seen and read online, it's more like, because basically as soon as you put your hands on the person
It's your
who may
fault.
or may not be, exactly, exactly. So they encourage you not to, especially if you're a foreigner. That's
Oh
that
yeah, but you don't
100
want to
times.
engage.
Never put your hands on the person unless
Very
you're grabbing
interesting.
their arm to take them to the police. But yeah, so the key thing, I think that's more of a Western country thing.
Yeah, like when I again, like when I first came over here as a study abroad student, they talked to us about, not, watching your hands. Like watch your hands. Like I think
Do not
my school
engage.
like my school specifically was like, when you're on the train, it might be a good idea to just, put both hands on
Yeah.
the strap when you're walking around or when you're on the train. And like even today, like I'm very conscious of my hands, uh not because I'm planning on doing anything, but because I don't want there to be any sort of misunderstanding. So like when I'm
Yes.
walking, usually I'll have, I'll have my smartphone in one hand and my other hand on my on the strap of my backpack or something, or I'll have both
Yeah.
hands firmly placed in my pockets. Or yes, I'll be holding on to the straps or the bars for holding on to on the train, just to
Mm.
make sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of protecting yourself as well, right? Because
Right.
if we get accused of something, no matter what the evidence is, no matter what it is, Japan will take the side of Japan.
Of
Whatever
course.
we say or do. Yeah,
That's true.
exactly.
That's
So like,
true.
I do notice, yeah, like hands in either like people's eye line, like visually visible, is a common thing that I see all men do on the train. And I also feel more confident seeing that. Like I know where their hands are.
So yeah, on my part, like as a man, I'm trying to be very conscious of what I actually say during this, because like not only is this a very fascinating perspective that I don't get to hear a lot, but like also I'm trying not to like center myself in this. But like in any case, like there is that whole foreigner thing, and I am a black man. Um,
Mm.
and
So it's like
I've
2 strikes already.
exactly, yeah. So like I'm not Japanese. I'm black on top of not being Japanese. And like it's very interesting how like, stereotypes about black men and their sexual transgression, or like their I don't know, like their predatory nature end up, finding end up finding their ways into other countries. So like I'm still,
Mm.
even I think, if I were a Japanese guy, like it would be mostly paranoia to worry too much about, where your hands are. But in my case, I don't want to end up talking to the police about anything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Better safe than sorry.
Actually, you just brought up a moment for another thing, that's something I would do back at home but not in Japan, is get loud with somebody. That just
Would
ping ponged
what?
in my
Is
brain.
what,
Get
sorry?
loud with somebody. Like if
Yes.
somebody did something, I would, call them out. I would be like, excuse me,
Ah.
just, call their
Oh,
attention in a not so nice way. But here I would not do that. I mean,
Right.
depending on my mood for the most part.
I have a
But
story about that kind of links both of those things. And I've learnt my lesson. Is it okay if I
oh,
share?
Yeah,
yeah, go
sure. Go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay, so this was last year, on the train. I was coming home on the way home on the train, and I was sitting. I was in like the corner seat right by the door, and there was a young woman on my right, and then an older woman on her right. So the three of us sitting. Okay, and I notice the older woman, she's about to get off at the station. And before she gets off, she kind of stands up, crouches down, and wakes up the young woman who's sitting next to me, and taps her on the shoulder and whispers in her ear in Japanese. And I overhear it saying, um, you should close your legs because the man across from us is looking and maybe taking pictures of you. And I looked at her and I did notice, yeah, she had a short skirt and her legs wide open. She had fallen asleep. And I was asleep too, so I didn't realize how she was sitting. And then I looked over and there was a man who was using his phone, but it kind of looked like it was pointing in her direction as if he was maybe taking pictures or videoing, or I don't know, but he was definitely looking at her. And then the older woman, got off the train, and then the young woman next to me, she just fell back asleep. I think she was drunk, maybe. This was early in the morning. And I kind of had a like, what do I do moment, because I think she was drunk. And the guy was still looking over in her direction, my direction, and I kind of didn't know what to do. So I was like, I stood up and I stood in front of her so that to kind of block anyone who may or may not see her underwear. And then I kind of felt like, oh, this is not enough. And this is the Kiwi in me. I go to the guy and I say, did you take a photo of that woman? And he said, no. And I said, can I see your phone photos? And he showed me, and there was nothing. There were just like random screenshots of stuff. And then I said, okay, thank you, sorry. But then he raised his voice, and he kind of said like, oi, ayamaro, like, like, hey, you better like bloody apologize. And I did. And my heart started beating so fast. I got off the next station. I said to him one more time before I got off the train. I said, I'm very sorry about that. I got off the train, bolted to the toilet, waited like 10 minutes, and then I got back on the train to go home. But I was kind of like, I don't know if I don't know. I felt like I was doing the right thing, because I thought, well, if it was the other way around, I would want someone to do that for me. But I don't know, but in my heart, I felt like I was doing the right thing, but I felt like I was punished for it. And I talked to my Japanese friend about the whole thing afterwards, like, hey, do you think I did the right thing? And she said, Maha, I know your heart was in the right place, but that could have went so badly. You should not have done that. And it was kind of like a moment where I was like, oh yeah, like I cannot do that in Japan, because like, oh, even though I may want to like help someone and stand up for what I think is right, it could end up with me being the bad guy. So like, she said to me like, Maha, don't be a hero. Like if something like that happens to you or someone around you, just let it happen or walk away. And it was just like a really awful, like, I guess, reality of being a woman or just being in Japan. But ever since then, I hate it. But like, I now have no courage or no will to speak up or confront anyone about that kind of thing. Because I thought to myself, yeah, what if that guy got violent? What if that guy grabbed me? Or what if he, like, started making a scene on the train? Luckily, he just raised his voice once. But like, yeah, like that situation could have went so much worse.
First off, I commend you. I'm surprised. That's like that you asked him for pictures. Like props.
I mean, because like, because yeah, I thought to myself, it was the other way around. I would want someone to do that for me.
Right.
But
I know I can see like where you came from.
It's a very tricky situation, like, because like just legally it's a very tricky situation, and like we've already established, if somebody decides that they are upset, things can happen that will not favor us as
yeah.
I'm assuming none of us are citizens. There absolutely have been situations where, like in the U.S., I've never fought with anybody in adulthood, because like I'm very large and very dark and scary to just about everybody. So like I've never had to, but like there have been situations where in the U.S. I would speak out, either in defense of myself or in defense of other people. And like the train situation, I'm lucky that it's never happened in front of me, like any sort of like chikan situation, any sort of like groping or upskirt photography. I'm very lucky that's never happened in front of me, because like I would be compelled to do something, and like I think, like, again, like I don't want to give advice inadvertently or not, but like it's very, very important that you're very careful about what you do. And like I think in Japan it's more about like instead of like individuals taking authority, like to seek out an authority and be like, hey, this thing is happening, and like let them handle it. Um, if you even go that far, because like I have heard stories about, it's a different situation, but like people finding a lost wallet and taking it into the police station and like having to like fill out paperwork for
Yep.
uh like people like to say hours, but yeah. So yeah, that is something that I definitely used to do in the US, not
Mm.
so much in Japan anymore. I'm very much more um
Yeah.
like Nemawashi isn't
I feel
the right term exactly, but like I'm much more sort of diplomatic, I guess. Like I definitely try to handle problems indirectly a lot more.
I feel like I've become more passive aggressive, and that makes me a little upset at myself.
I think yeah, it's kind of unavoidable because like also like you're the Westerner, especially if you're a visible Westerner, there's already this stereotype that you're gonna be a very aggressive person.
Right.
So yeah.
I
All
guess
right,
the
let
only
me
time
throw
I
out
do get it.
another. Oh, go ahead. Finish that thought.
Oh, I was just gonna say, there are times where I can't hold it back, like when people unnecessarily push me on the train.
The
So,
elbows.
like,
Mhm.
okay, if you're gonna push me back, let's push, let's play. Like, more than likely, I have more weight behind me.
I'm
I
a
don't.
very big person, but like I travel through the train station like a shark. Like you should watch me walk through the train station because
Dodge, 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 dodge,
if
dodge.
if if I knock somebody over, it's the end. It's the end. There's no there's no conversation. Even the
Well,
lawyer would just be like, throw the book at him. So like I should have played in the NFL. You should see me sometime. But all right, next question, next question, next question. How has living in Japan influenced your communication ability?
Ooh, could you give more specifics?
So, either linguistically or even sort of like, like body language wise. Um,
Mm.
yeah, like body language, I guess. Like I guess like expressions fall under body language and like something like like Japanese people are sort of renowned for being unflappable in situations that like would have Americans running around screaming, and like I think that's something that like I'm a very sort of um like if something is affecting me, it's gonna show up on my face. Like I will
Yeah.
react to things.
I wear my
Uh
emotions on my face too.
oh, so do I.
Right. So like we already sort of covered a little bit of ground on this already because like as people from countries where like directness is more valued and tolerated, um you see a problem, you deal with it. And in Japan and even in the Japanese language,
Mm.
you're not as direct. You're a little more what is it, like you're leaving things up to context. You might not state everything, you might leave some information up for the listener to uh complete by themselves. So
I always say they're
anyway,
like beating around the bush, is what they do.
Yep.
right, example.
How our communications changed,
Or like beating
or
around the bush.
oh, so for example, say at work, I have, like my Japanese coworkers, if they want me to do something, they have a roundabout way of asking
Mhm.
me to do something, and then I'll just directly say it. Like, oh yeah, I'm like, why not just say that? If you want that, just tell me directly. Don't go all the way around.
Right.
Like, just there are moments, where I want to say tiptoe, but there are times where finding that roundabout way is okay. But then there are times where just tell me what you want me to do, and that's it. Don't waste my time.
Right.
Don't waste your time. I'm okay.
Hmm.
Usually it's like
Right.
with
Right.
work
Right.
task or something like they want me to work on, or it's like things like just work tasks basically.
Mhm. So, like, do you find yourself being more indirect,
Mhm. I wouldn't say.
or are you still just as direct as you were when you got off the plane?
Oh, I'm still pretty direct at times because I guess it's my personality. But if I have something to tell you, I'm gonna tell you. But it's
Mhm.
that I will edit it. Like if it's a person who needs a softer, approach to it, I'm not gonna go at you with like knives. I will say it.
Right.
So with like my Japanese coworkers, I'll just it's a soft directness, if that makes sense. And they've learned to work with it, and like sometimes I think they appreciate it that I just tell them like this is what I want, this is what it is. There you go. I'm not gonna leave it up, I guess, in the air to kind of guess like, is this what she wanted or does she want this? Because those situations, like, it's kind of, I guess, annoying
Mhm.
because let's say they tell you something, and then you do it how you understood it, and they're like, I don't think that's like, oh, okay, here we go again.
Did you do the teeth suck just now?
Could be.
That was really good Japanese. That was
I've been here too long.
it, it it's snuck in and you haven't even realized it.
There you go. See,
The
that's how my communications change. I do that a lot.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What about Maha? What do you think?
Well, I mean, other than the obvious, like, oh, by living here, my Japanese was already pretty fluent, but after moving here, even more so. And thanks to Twitter, now I can use Kaggle pretty confidently. Because that's something I only used when I was a student, and then in my workplace, I don't use it at all unless I'm answering the phone. But one thing that, like, a communication habit that's been switched. So in New Zealand, I think it must be the same in America. When you're just walking in the street or in the park or in the mall and you make eye contact with someone, usually just give them a friendly smile or a friendly,
The nod
yeah,
or
the
the
nod.
nod.
Yeah. The friendly smile, the friendly nod. It's like the retail smile, the retail
Yes,
like hello without saying hello, right?
yes, yes,
And
yes.
that is just a habit that's been built into me because I worked in retail while I was a student for so many years. And then when I was studied here, as an exchange student for 1 year, that was like the first thing that I realized, oh, I cannot do that here. That's not a thing here. And then of course moving here, it took a while for that to like be unprogrammed in my body language. But one that replaced that was bowing for everything and anything. Like the little like half bow, half nod, head nod bow, like to
Yes,
be
yes, yes, yes,
polite,
yes.
to yeah, like that is just so I think that is just a habit that anyone who lives here will get because when in doubt, sumimasen. When in doubt, bow, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm.
yeah, so that's an interesting one that because maybe last year, um, we had a intern at my workplace from America, and it was her first time in Japan ever. And I had met her by coincidence outside of the workplace without knowing who she was, that this was the person. And she did the smile to me. And I legit gave her a face, like a who are you kind of thing. And then afterwards I realized like, oh my God, that was so rude. Wait, she didn't mean anything bad by that smile. Like she like and I realized like, oh my God. Like it was like the opposite like reaction when I first came here as a exchange student. I Someone did that to me. A Japanese person reacted like that to me. They gave me this like kind of frown and like kind of like, what are you doing? Like, why are you looking at me? Kind of thing. And I was like, oh
It
my
came
God.
full circle.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was like my body reacted before I thought about it. It's like, why are you smiling? Like, who are you? Like
Something interesting that I've noticed, like, um let's see. I used to like on the jet program, obviously in the past, well, like I guess recently there's Tokyo jets, but When I was teaching English on the JET program, originally I lived out in the countryside, so like I didn't meet any other, you know, foreigners of any kind, any immigrants, any tourists. It was very rare. And like when you did meet somebody that was visibly not Japanese, like you were their best friend in 5 minutes. You had their socials, you had their line account, et cetera, et cetera, and then you were partying with them the next weekend. Um, Now that I live out in Tokyo, and like ever since coming out to the Kanto region a few years ago, like I've noticed it's really cold. And like you try to give the nod to somebody, and like sometimes they give you the nod back, black, white, whatever. They give you the nod back, and sometimes they look at you like you're a complete weirdo. And like one day in the train station, I gave the nod to some black people, and they didn't give the nod black.
Oh no.
They didn't give the nod back. They just looked at me like I was a weirdo. And then something finally snapped for me. Something clicked, and I looked at them. They had luggage.
The
I
tourist.
was like, ah, you're not from here. I'm just a weirdo to them. But like, so like from now and ever since then, if I see somebody, that might not be from Japan originally, if they're holding luggage, I leave them alone. If they aren't holding luggage, I might give them the nod. So, observation, skills of observation. I guess that's one thing that's changed about my communication ability. But yeah, anyway.
I think another
So
thing.
nice, nice,
Oh,
nice.
sorry. Another thing that changed for me, like, 'cause, I mean, the nod was one of them, but I think it's an American thing to say "bless you" after people sneeze, and
Right, right, right.
sometimes it's just automatic. You just say, "Oh, bless you," and I don't think about it. But when I went to Europe for the first time, they don't say that. In Japan, they don't say that.
Mm,
Like even strangers, like in America, if you sneeze, like, "Oh, bless you," like, "Okay, thanks," but that's not a thing here.
right,
So that when I would hear people sneeze on the train, I'd have to hold it in, like, like you can't. But at work, yeah, like, "Oh, okay, you're bless you," or like, if I sneeze, like, "Bless me," like I'll bless myself. But my kids, though, because I say it at work, they started saying it to each other.
Oh, that's cute.
that's great.
They're picking up my communication skills now, and
That's
I don't
so
know if I
great.
should be happy or kind of like check myself at how I say things. Because there was a
No, no, that's
situation,
good.
not situation, but like sometimes when kids do something, I'll be like, I don't think so, or nope. And some of my
Right,
kids drop the, I don't think so. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. So yeah, I guess I changed communication and they pick up my communication. But yeah, the bless you, that was like a kind of hard. I had to mentally tell myself, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it.
right, right. Like it's just like it's easier when you're in like an all Japanese environment because like there's no Japanese for that expression,
No.
you know. So you just awkwardly
Yeah.
sit there thinking it
Yeah.
to yourself
Bless you.
and
And then,
feeling like a jerk for not saying it. But yeah.
but then if you mumble it to yourself too, people might think, is she okay? Or are they, why are they talking to themselves?
Right. Okay, next. Let's is this a softball one? This might be a softball one. It might not. I'm not sure. But next. What preconceptions did you have about Japan before living here?
Hmm.
Hmm. I think this is
So,
one. Oh, go ahead.
okay.
Sorry.
All right. Well, so for example, when I was a kid, I lived in New Jersey, right next to New York. New York obviously is a metropolitan area, home to people from around the world. And in New York, there was this special channel. It was an international channel. Like every hour or two, it switched languages, so TV programs from different countries. On Saturday night, they played Japanese stuff for about 2 hours. Japanese stuff with subtitles. One of the shows they played was a show called Abarembo Shogun, and like, which is a samurai show, right? It's an old samurai show. Basically, there's a fight every episode. You know, not blood and guts, but people are dying. People are dying. There's lots of death. The next show after Abarembo Shogun would be Hagure Keiji, which is a detective show. And like most detective shows, you know, every episode there's a murder, and they're, you know, trying to solve the murder, trying to find the killer. And so as a kid, I understood that Japan was a country deeply rooted in violence from, you know, the Edo period up until today. I was convinced that Japan is a dangerous country you should be very, very careful in, because somebody's gonna cut your head off with a sword or stab you with a knife, something like that. That is only half serious. Like that's mostly a joke. Like that's a that's a preconceived notion that I had out of the ignorance of childhood.
Oh, that's tough. Because I guess for me, my first introduction to Japanese was anime. I think like the high school uniforms, I guess that didn't really change. That's still true. Like they always wore the high school uniform and nothing else. And I think that's,
Right.
but as for like culture wise, I don't think I really had anything. Or maybe like they're quite quiet people. Like I guess in my, from what I've seen before I came here, like, oh, they're just a quiet, quiet society. They're very
Hmm.
to themselves, which I guess is also so true. But once you get to know some Japanese people, they're not as quiet as you think they are.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, I also actually,
Maha, anything?
yeah, I didn't really have any like, um, well, I'm a hardcore otaku. Um, I
Mhm.
mean that with every fiber of my being. Like, I'm not underplaying it. I'm very much a very intense otaku. Anime, manga, video games, movies, comic books, like everything. Um, and I don't know, like I didn't have any preconceptions. I think maybe it's because I was raised with so many Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Thai people since I was young. So like it wasn't such a foreign thing for me because I grew up with anime, grew up with video games that came from mostly Japan. So like it wasn't such a super foreign thing. And also, while we were studying Japanese, I studied from in New Zealand. High school is 5 years, so from age 12 to 17, I did Japanese class all those 5 years, and we learned not only the language but also cultural things. And on the fifth year, the final year, we were able to go to Japan on like a school trip, a homestay and travel type thing. And before we went, our teachers really well prepared us for kind of like not to go to Japan with this kind of lens of like, oh, there's gonna be this everywhere. Everyone's gonna be like this. Oh, da 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 da. So like I didn't have that experience of like many foreigners. They're like, oh my god, it's gonna be just like the animes. Well, I'm gonna get a da 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 da. Like that didn't happen to me because I've seen that happen to so many people. So many people where
Hmm.
they come to Japan finally and they get severely disappointed because it's not like my animes, it's not like my movies or blah blah
A
blah.
manga.
Because they've put this
Mhm.
because they don't know the culture. They don't know what is the actual what Japan is a country like everywhere else. There's good things, there's bad things. What you see in media is just a part of it, right? So like,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
I never had that. So when I came to Japan, I loved it. It's everything I wanted and more. Of course, there's things I don't like about it. There's things I don't like about every country, but there's things I love about every country too. So like, um, yeah, for me there wasn't so much. The one thing I can say is that the typical like stereotype of what Japanese people like oh they're a little shy, they're quiet, they don't like to cause trouble. I feel like that's only true for Kanto region because as soon as I went to like Hokkaido, Tohoku, Kansai, oh my god,
Kansai does.
Kansai
And
people are
Kyushu?
wild.
Kyushu.
Holy moly. It is. I was like, oh
Right.
nah, people, Osaka people, whoa, um,
Osaka is
is
wild.
wild.
Osaka
Yeah,
is
it
so
really
wild.
is. Like,
Love
it
Osaka.
is. Like, I explain it to people is that Tokyo is. I've never been to America, but people who are from America, they say this too. Tokyo is like New York, Osaka is like California. It's like
Exactly.
the Wild West and the cold.
That's what I've heard. I've never been to Osaka. I know it's crazy to say.
It's wild. Like it's a nice place to visit. No more than 1 week. You don't need more than a week. And it's just people are a bit more vulgar and I did not feel safe in Osaka. Every time I go, I'm only like just for a few days for USJ or just for like travel. But yeah, I was like, oh no, Tokyo, Kanto's my home.
Like, I'm pretty sure somebody tried to take my liver in
What?
Osaka.
Oh, that's
What?
a story. That's a story you have to
It,
tell.
it's a story. We I don't think we have the time. Just don't accept drinks from
Oh my
strange
god.
people is the moral of the story.
Hey, organ
Oh,
Okay.
harvesting
All right.
is
All
a
right.
thing. So like,
Next topic might be how many times have you come close to death in Japan? That'll be the
oh
topic for next
yikes.
week's recording.
oh,
All
please
right.
include
So
me. I mean, I haven't included.
okay. Let me look for the next question. What challenges did you face when you first got to Japan? And how did you overcome them?
I think my first one was the payment, the way the payments work. Because in America, you get paid every 2 weeks, right?
Mm.
So for the most
Right.
part, you can budget pretty well. Having to budget for 1 month, that was eye opening.
Mm.
And I was a college student, so I know how to stretch my money when I need to, but I learned to stretch it, especially when I worked for my previous company. I probably shouldn't say names, but I was an ALT first, and we all know
Right.
ALTs get paid like dirt. So, and that's also my first time to
Mhm.
work at a job where I got prorated. So that was interesting. I had my first 700, like I had 70,000 yen. That was my paycheck for the month
What?
because it was prorated. Yeah, it was prorated. They
Oh my
changed it. They
god.
changed it after that. But this wonderful company would prorate your checks in summer and winter. And
What? That's
oh yeah.
unlivable.
Oof. Yeah, we know that company. We know
Oh,
that company.
I think I know it too,
That's
actually. Now that-
yeah.
Mm.
They're always in the
I
It's
news
not the
for
one that,
some
that
sort
was
of trouble.
recent, but they've had some
Yeah.
controversies. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I
Right.
learned how to, I guess, hustle, and I the whole hustle culture. It's bittersweet for me because I learned that okay, it's going to be hard, but I can make it through. And, I felt proud of myself for making it through, but also it bums me out that I had to make it through.
Mm.
So, yeah, I guess learning how to
Mhm.
properly save my money and actually budget. Like I actually calculate when I go, especially now, because, thanks rising prices, thanks weekend. When I go to the grocery store, I actually kind of calculate just to
Mhm.
stay on budget. Because beforehand, I'm like, oh, it's okay, whatever. But yeah, I've learned to be more conscious of like what I'm spending, like how much is going in, what's coming out.
Mm.
Right. Very nice answer. Yes, yes. Because that is something that is a little startling to a lot of people in the beginning, especially if you don't have a lot of money in the bank already. That first
Because they
month
do. I
can
mean,
be a little
sorry, go.
brutal because yeah, you don't get paid. Like you don't like
Because they they
how did it
they
work?
told us from
It's
the
been so long I
beginning that
can't
okay,
remember.
you're not going to get paid for 1 month because you start from this month and then you're paid whatever. Like
Right,
the pay period is different. So we're like, oh, okay, cool. So come with this set amount of money
right,
for the whole month. But like you don't realize like it
right.
if you're able to properly save, it's not so bad. But there are, some people who don't, things come up or they're just not able to save the way they want to. So that 1 month of no pay really gets dicey.
Yeah, so for me, it wasn't so much when I first came here, because first time I came here was on the school trip. That was like 10 days, loved it, amazing, as a tourist, of course. Second time, I was a exchange student, 1 year exchange student. Um, and then when I moved here, it was with the JET program. And with the exchange program and JET program, they do everything for you. So it's very lovely intro to Japan. Like, they prepare your housing, they prepare your banks, they prepare your phone, everything is done for you. When I found, when I really had realized, like, oh, I see, was when I left Jet, and when I moved out and found my own place to live, where I am now, where I had to go to the fudosan, a real estate agent, had to look for my own place. And I'm sure I'm sure you know where this is going.
The rejection.
Yep. So I
Yeah.
have a New Zealand passport, and the first thing, I go to the real estate agent with my Japanese friend who recently had bought a house. So she was like, she knew all the tricks that the real estate agents do. Because this was my first time ever looking for my own place to live. So we go, have the appointment, and the first thing they ask me is, what country are you from? I said, I'm from New Zealand. I said my background. I have a New Zealand passport. Okay. And then we start looking. I'm like, okay, I'm looking for a place of this range, this area, the blah blah blah. They, okay, let's have a look. They find 5 results that were matching my criteria. I said, okay, they all look good. And the real estate agent says, okay, but first I need to check with the owner to see if they're okay with a foreigner and if it's okay if we go look. They call up. Out of those 5 places, only 2 were okay with a foreigner. And I noticed every time he called the people, they would specifically mention I was a 20-something-year-old woman and I was from New Zealand, because apparently New Zealand is one of the quote unquote good countries. And my stomach sank. Like, and even I heard one of the owners even had the nerve to say any country is okay except, and they specifically mentioned 3 countries. And it just pushes this horrible xenophobic stereotype that Japan has.
I
Oh boy,
I
it
think
was
I
just
can
so
name
sad.
at least one of them.
Oh my god, it just it was just so depressing and made me realize, and like, because, and they again they mentioned like, oh, she speaks fluent Japanese, like she does this for work and blah blah blah, like she has a Japanese friend with her, like, and like, for me personally, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm probably gonna be okay. But I realized, what if I didn't have a New Zealand passport? What if I didn't speak Japanese to the ability that I do? Like, I just felt, I don't know, it just kind of, it was so, it kind of like a reality check, I guess, of like, oh yeah, like, Jet really kind of gives you this sugar glazed experience of Japan, but as soon as you're really on your own, I was like, damn. And out of these 2 places, luckily, one of them I really did like. I applied, I got it. I've been living here for 3 years now in the home. So everything turned out fine. But like, oh, I just thought, like, what about everyone else? What about other people who because I can pass as Japanese just visually. And plus I have the language. So things are easier for me. And that's part of the reason why I enjoy living here so much. Because in New Zealand, no one thinks I'm from New Zealand. Almost all the time, people ask me, oh, your English is so good. Where are you from? And they see my name, they see my face. Nothing matches. I have an Arabic name. I have an Asian face. And they hear my voice. Nothing matches. And they want to know my whole life story. They want to see my birth certificate. Like, they just because if you're, yeah, like, they say, where are you from? I say, oh, I'm from New Zealand. No, where are you really from? Like,
oh my
because
god, where are
in
you
New
really
Zealand,
Where are you
yeah,
really from?
yeah, oh yeah, because in New Zealand, it's a very multicultural country. There's so many people from all over the globe. It's a very mixed country. But if you are not white plus person of color, you're exotic.
Right. That's really interesting because I've had to like reconcile the difference between racism and xenophobia living
Oh
here,
yes.
and like, because like, not I don't know, like, I don't want to get white people too excited, but like, I've seen really bizarre stuff happen to like lily white blonde white
Oh,
women in this country,
oh my God.
and
Don't
like
No,
get me
it's
one of
started.
completely
them,
true. Like,
um
it depends on what kind of
well,
foreigner
like,
you are. What flavor are you?
so
Yes.
right.
Absolutely.
So like, the two incidents I have in mind, like one very quickly was a coworker of mine who was engaged to a Japanese guy, like a British girl, and they were looking for an apartment, and she was so shocked that she got rejected. I was shocked that they got rejected because like Japanese man
Mm.
plus again like lily white blonde woman got rejected. And like also there was this time on the train. And like I'm really happy I saw this happen because for a long time I really thought it was just me. But like there's this again lily white blonde woman on the train, conservatively dressed, literally sitting reading a book.
Mm.
Reading the least threatening creature on earth. And like nobody would sit next to
Yep.
her. And I was like, it's not just
I feel that.
me.
I feel that
Yeah.
too. I feel that
It's
too.
not just me. Okay,
But then I
great.
get mad when someone just like sit next to me. It's weird. Like I feel bad. Like what's wrong with me? But then when they sit next to me, I'm like, could you not?
I'm used like you get used to your little space, but
You
but
do.
yeah.
Can I add to the wake up call stories real quick?
Sure.
So you know how you talked about apartments? For me, it was phones too. I mean, I've been rejected, but the phone, trying to get the phone plan, that was a
Mhm.
wake
Oh.
up call for me. Like having the payment plan. So like you know how when you want to get a new phone, they either make you pay up front or you can do like the monthly
Installments, yeah.
payments. Um, but they base it on your visa. What kind of like how long is your visa? So when I lived
Right.
in the countryside, because I used to live in Miyagi, and when I got my phone, my friend, he's been in Japan a hot minute. He could speak Japanese pretty well, but he told me like, don't get excited because this is where I got ready, where they were about to hand me the phone and they saw my visa. Like, oh, sorry, like the
Oh
moshoke gozaimasen.
no.
Because it
Are
was
you talking about like right at the last step? They said
Yeah,
they denied you.
but then
That's rough.
they gave me the payment plan in Miyagi. So I was like, okay, cool. I have my 1 year visa, cool, whatever. So then I finished that plan. Then I wanted to get a new phone, and they saw my visa and they're like, "Oh, sorry, your visa's too short." And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Mm-mm-mm.
Mm.
So how come they let me in Miyagi? What's the difference? Like it's the same time frame, whatever, blah blah blah. They're like,
Right.
"Oh, blah blah changed." And then my friend at the time, she's also been here a while and can speak Japanese. She asked him like, "We can't control what visas we get. That's up to y'all's government.
Mhm.
How is it our fault that I can't control if I get a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year visa? So like, screw me."
There are people that like leave
Yeah, I mean, I know
and
they dip out, which makes it harder for the rest of us.
right. And it does suck because it does make things harder for the rest of us, but there are people that dip early on contracts and they leave. They might leave all their shit behind in their apartment, and they're going back to their home country. Like not to justify the
No, I get what you're
discrimination.
saying. It's out of my control, and the fact that they kind of use that against me, like, well, sorry, you have a 1 year visa. Like, okay, like I wanted a
Right,
1 year visa.
right.
But then when you do meet those people that just like dip and bail, like, you know what? I hate you. I wish your life to be very inconvenient.
They ruined it for the rest of us.
Exactly.
When you're on the jet program, there was a guy, like this big burly guy. He like someday I'm like if this keeps going, I'm gonna have a talk about mental health. Because like people when people have bad experiences here, like it can
But they
get
have
bad.
they go through the ringer.
Right. And this guy, he was basically at war with the Board of Education in his town and like or his region
Ooh,
and like he like there were complaints about this apartment that they set some of the ALTs up and like there was also issues about like those complaints being addressed and like as a form of protest when he left he just left his apartment a complete
Oh.
disaster and like the Board of Education took it out on every new jet ALT that came in after him.
Ah.
So yeah, it can get ugly.
Yeah.
where I used to live in Miyagi, we had jets and ALTs, and there's like a fine line between them.
Mm.
Oh really? That's weird.
Yeah, like sometimes the BOE prefers the jets over the ALTs, and sometimes the treatment was better. And then I've met people who are on the jet program. They have that air about them, like, oh, I'm a jet, and you're just an
Yeah.
ALT. Just
There's
like we both teach. Okay.
There's nothing special about, Jet versus anything else. There's really nothing special. They might, like, in the past they got paid more, but that's really it. That's
Honestly,
really it. There's no difference.
seeing some of the Jets that were in the same orientation as me, I'm literally like, so they just accepting anyone now. Honestly. Honestly, some of the people I'm like, how
Right.
did you get past the interview? Like, you have
That's how I
zero
feel about
social
some of the
skills.
ALTs I met.
Oh my god, some of these I'm like,
Right.
wow, like how low are the standards? Like I was like I practiced so hard, like, worked so hard on my application, made everything look good. Get to Tokyo orientation, I'm like, how are you here?
How?
Like, yeah. And even the people who were in my city, like where I was placed, the guy who did the runner, the guy who left his apartment a mess, he was one of them. I had so many fights with him just because he was the cookie cutter. Oh, I'm gonna go to Japan. I'm gonna get a Japanese girlfriend. I'm gonna, like, it's gonna be just like the animes, like da da
Oh
da.
boy.
And he
Oh God.
didn't last even. I think he lasted like 10 months, and he was gone. He broke contract.
Hmm.
He left his apartment an absolute mess. And yeah, like Sam said, the people who came next, they had to suffer because of that one guy's,
Right.
poor, just poor attitude, poor social skills, poor perspective, everything.
Right. Right. Right.
That
So,
reminds me of
like,
another story. I'm sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, just like when back in Miyagi, there was an incident with an ALT. I guess he got drunk, too drunk, and had some shenanigans. And not so much like female teachers, but it really, I guess, the city kind of changed their view in the male teachers.
Ah.
Hmm.
That's what it made me think of.
Right.
Mm.
That
So like,
yeah, like, unfortunately, like, if one person does something, like, they will um view everybody as, a collective, and, like, next question, let's see. All right, how about this? This one might be interesting. So, how has living in Japan changed the way that you look at yourself?
I've always been a very like not a confident person. Like I come from a single mom household, so I've always been like I don't need a man or I don't need to depend on anybody.
Hmm.
And it's made me realize like obviously I do ask for help when I need it, but for the most part, like I can depend on me. Like if something happens, I can take care of it before I try to figure out how to do it by myself before I go, needing assistance or something. And it makes me feel proud that I can take care of myself, especially being away from like my protection of home, my protection of my family, my friends. So I can be the strong, independent woman.
Hmm.
I
Actually,
guess if that makes sense.
yeah, I actually very similar to Brittany. I also come from a single mom household and had to be very independent from a very young age. But yeah, then moving to Japan, living in Japan as a student and as a full-time working adult, even more so because now I have my own place and I'm fully financially independent. And I feel like Japan really caters to introverts and people who hitorigurashi, like live by themselves and support themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like so many things are catered to people like me. So I feel like the majority here. Whereas in New Zealand, I very much felt like a minority in all senses in terms of race, hobbies, personality, interest, background, like everything. I just felt like it just didn't belong. Whereas here, I feel like there is a community, there's a space that there are so many people like me, so I feel like I feel more comfortable and confident here.
Hmm. Okay. Do you guys have any examples of that?
Well,
I think
yeah, Brittany.
oh, I think Maha kind of hit the thing, like just being like financially independent. Like actually, like if I see something I want, like okay, I can get this, I can afford this,
Hmm.
and I don't have to like, hey mom, can I have some money? Or like, it's all me. It's all everything I have, it's from me. And I feel, pretty proud of that everything that I own, I bought, you know, with my blood, sweat, and
Mm.
tears.
That's what's up. As you,
What about you?
you're maturing. Me, how's living in Japan changed the way that I look at myself? Actually, so if you read my Twitter, you might have heard me say this like probably once a week. But during my English teaching career, a few years ago, I ended up teaching at a high school for the first time. It's common knowledge that teaching at high school is more difficult than teaching at elementary or teaching at junior high school because though, technically on paper I'm an ALT, an assistant language teacher, though technically I'm an
Mhm.
ALT. At high school,
They
there's
forget
so
the
much.
system part, right?
Right. There's so much work to be done that even the ALTs end up doing things like, designing curriculum and, designing tests and proctoring tests, scoring tests, etc. And this is my first time doing it at this school, and I was extremely nervous. And like my coworkers, most of the whom who had been at the school for a while, um, essentially they made me feel less than because I would ask them questions and they would just be like, "Oh, you'll figure it out," or
I hate that.
it's common sense, like just do it. And these were the like again the non-Japanese coworkers that were like not being the most helpful. So like for the first couple months at this new job, I just felt like the most worthless piece of human garbage. I was like, there is like I should quit probably. Like I'm so bad at this job, I should probably just leave. Especially like after my first year, like I was in charge of coming up with the curriculum for one of the courses. And I took on this leadership position, and like again, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And then like 6 months in, I just looked at what my coworkers were doing, and I did the opposite of that. And and long story short, I went from thinking that like I couldn't do this and that it would be too hard for me and like I'm not capable enough, I'm not competent enough to fully realizing my value. I used to look at myself as like, there's nothing special about me, and now I very much know what's special about me, and I own it.
I feel like that's something that happens when you stay here a while. You learn things about yourself that you didn't know you could do or you had. It's like a self discovery in a way.
All right, well, yeah, you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for coming out.
Well, thank you for letting us be here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's really cool.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Yeah, thanks for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I definitely would like to be like a part of it more. This is fun.
Me too.
Thank you for listening to the Tokyo Tea Party Podcast. A very special thanks to my first two guests ever, Maha and Brittni. Vibrant Tropical Salsa and Rhythm of Havana, courtesy of Toontank.com and Pineapple Music. For my socials, information about the show, and information about this episode's guest, please check the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please show some love with shares, likes, and comments on social media. I've been your host, Samuel Darbouze. Be easy, y'all. Mina, genki den ne? Peace.